All right, problem number 5. 6 darts land on a dartboard, and each dart scores 2, 5, or 8 points. Which of the following scores is possible? And you can assume that you don't miss the dartboard and get 0, which I guess, they do say that the 6 darts land on the dartboard. Okay, so all all 6 darts score either 2, 5, or 8 points. Okay. So let's look at these numbers here. And, well, probably the first thing I would do is figure out, okay, so let's say the lowest score possible would be if all 6 darts land on the 2. And 6 times 2 is, um, is 12, right? So let's write that out. So the minimum score is 6 times 2, which is 12, right? So we know that 11 can't be possible. There's no way you can get an 11. And we could do the same thing if all of our 6 darts land on 8. Then the maximum score is 6 times 8, right? So that's 48. And that's the most we can get. So we know the 51 is out. So then we got to we've got it narrowed down now to just 4 possibilities. So let's take a look at what the possible scores could be. There's a little trick to this problem, and it's a matter of figuring out or looking for the patterns in the scores that are possible. So let's just start with the minimum score and go up from there. So the next lowest score, well, I'm going to put 12 here. So the next lowest score would be what? You'd have 5 darts landing on 2, and they'd have 1 5. So that's 5 times 2 plus 5, which is 15. Okay, so that would be the next lowest score. The next lowest score would be you'd have 2 darts landing on the 5, right? So then you'd have 4 darts that land on the 2, and 2 that land on a 5, so that gives you 18. So you can see we skipped over the 16, right? There's no way to get 16. So we can cross that off, all right? Because this is the lowest score. This is the next lowest, because the next lowest has to be, you can only go up from 2. And, 2 points per dart. So if we have, these are the 3 lowest scores that are possible. And you could keep listing out the possible the possible scores that you could get, just by adding, one more 5 to the number, to this, this one. I guess it's 1 less 2 and 1 more 5, right? And if you look at the difference between these two numbers, it's 3, right? So every time that one of your darts lands on a 5 and not a 2, you're going to get 3 more points, right? So the difference is 2. So our numbers are going to look like our next one here is going to be 3 more than 18, so that's 21, right? And then 24, and then 27. So what do we got here? We got 1 on a 5, 2 on a 5, 3 on a 5, 4 on a 5, 5 on a 5, and 6 darts on the 5 would be 5 times 6, which is 30. Okay. So you can see again, those are the lowest scores, and you see we kind of skipped over the 25. But there could be a way where you get where you'd have a 2 and a 5 and an 8, maybe that add up to 25. But if you look at the pattern in these, you can see the key to this problem is really noticing that all of these are multiples of 3. Okay. Oops, multiples of 3. Okay. So let's look at what happens when if we were to start at 12 and then we have one dart on the 8. Now the difference between 5 and 8 is what? Or, well, actually, it's 3. But the difference between 2 and 8 is 6, right? So every time that a dart lands on the 8 and not the 2, we're adding 6 points. So we would have 18, and 18 plus 6 is 24, and 24 plus 6 is 30, okay? And you'll notice that, it's like every other number here, okay? So really we're getting we're getting a subset of this one is the darts land on a 2, so we have a 2 plus some number of 5, so we have, let's see, m times 2 plus n times 5, okay? And in here we've got some darts landing on 2s or 8s, okay? And every time a dart lands on a 8 and not a 2, we're adding 6 more points, right? Because the difference between 8 and 2 is 6, okay? And you'll notice too that these are all multiples of 3. Multiples of 3. And it turns out because you have 6 darts, which is a multiple of 3, and every time you either land on a 5, you're going to add 3 more than the minimum score, and every time you land on an 8, you're adding 6 more to the minimum score. And our minimum score is a multiple of 3, right? Because it's a multiple of 6, which has to be a multiple of 3. It turns out that all of the scores that are possible are multiples of 3. So there's no way to get a score that's not a multiple of 3. And that eliminates 44 and 25. So the answer is 36. That's the only score that's out of this set that's possible, given the darts and these possible, the number of darts, which is 6, and these possible scores of 2, 5, and 8. Okay? So did you follow that? At first you might have to just start listing some of the possible scores, and then you start to notice that they're all multiples of 3, and you wonder, okay, is that is that true for all the scores? Are they all multiples of 3? And then you can sort of think through it to yourself. If you start with a minimum score, and every time you don't get a 2 and you get either a 5 or an 8, you're either adding 3 or 6 to the minimum score, which is a multiple of 3. So if you add a multiple of 3 to a multiple of 3, it's still going to be a multiple of 3. Okay? So the answer is 36.